Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Tyvis Powell, Jason Lloyd. Plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
And hello again, Northeast Ohio, and welcome to the ultimate Cleveland sports show. Should I say Emmy-nominated ultimate Cleveland sports show. I'm Jay Crawford. Over the next 30 minutes, I will tell you whether or not the Guardians have the best closer in baseball. Jason.
I'm Jason Lloyd. I don't want to talk about Game 3 of the Cavs, so we're going to look ahead to Game 4, and we're going to tell you what the Cavs have to fix the train wreck that occurred last night, Garrett.
I'm G. Bush, and I don't really want to talk about Game 4 either. I'm going to just keep it real. I'll tell you why you should keep it locked. I'm going to tell you exactly who the Browns are going to take at 54, McNuggets.
And is Cleveland the best sports city in the country right now today? The combination of the Cavs, the Guardians, and the Browns has a case against some of the other big cities in America.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting debate. Some people are saying, wait a minute, our last championship, and we won one championship in the last 65 years, but it is an interesting discussion. We'll talk about that. But we have to start with the Cavs. And, Mike, I'm so glad you built the show this way because in the 90-minute YouTube show today, we talked about everything that went wrong with the Cleveland Cavaliers. We needed 40 minutes to cover that space. That's behind us. If you want to see our thoughts on that, check out the YouTube clip. I'm more interested in moving forward at this point. Jay, how do we fix this? Because there was a lot broken.
Keep Paolo Banchero off the boards. He had 6 offensive rebounds in the first quarter. Rebounding obviously was a point of emphasis. Orlando has really focused on fast starts. Got to get off to a fast start. It didn't happen in Cleveland. It did happen in Orlando last night. They were better. It was a better start. So how do you fix it? Number one, keep them off the glass. They killed the Cavs on second chance points. I think they had 22 second chance points, 13 of those in the first quarter. And number two, you got to make shots. Max Strus and George Niang, two of the guys that they brought here because of their shooting, are two of the worst shooters on this team right now. The Cavs are having a ton of open looks. They're getting great looks from three, and they're not falling. So, and it's, we've heard guys say it for years. It's a make or miss league, and right now the Cavs are missing. We've said all week on the YouTube show, the Cavs aren't playing well when they were up 2-0. They're not necessarily playing well. Orlando's just even worse. They're playing worse.
But is that a product of the Cavs playing great defense?
Some of that is, and it was the fact that they're packing the paint and they're forcing Orlando to shoot threes. And Orlando, through the first two games, was shooting. The NBA has this tracking data of open and wide open shots. Wide open is no defender within 6 feet. The Magic were shooting like 25% through the first two games on wide open shots. That would be the lowest in the last 10 years that they've tracked the data.
Wow.
So last night.
For a playoff game or for any?
For an entire playoff series,
Okay.
for an entire playoff season per team. And so, and last night they weren't necessarily significantly better, but they were better on making some of those open shots. So, but the Cavs, they're not going to change that. They're going to pack the paint. They're going to give Orlando those shots. You think that they're going to miss far more than they're going to make, but the Cavs have to get the rebounds and close out those possessions.
And listen, Darius Garland is on a milk box. We have not seen Darius Garland 5 points from you. That can't happen. If the Cavs want to be a contender, Darius Garland has to be one of their top 2 players. He's being, and I don't even like talking about no money, but he's a max guy. And you gotta step up. You gotta show up. It's the other couple guys. We talk about Max Strus. Listen, he's playing with no confidence right now. And by the way, we talk about the defense. Jalen Suggs is in their back pockets right now. Mm-hmm. It's hard for him to get the ball up court. He's moving around. I think Orlando's defense kind of really messed with him, especially bringing the ball up court and getting into their sets. So for me, I think it's all about the energy level. They got to come out and be the more desperate team.
Jalen Suggs, to me, is a miracle man. He had a season-ending knee injury that lasted about 20 minutes. I mean, the way he reacted to his knee injury in Game 2, I said definitively he is not coming back in this series, and this is going to be a 4-0 sweep.
He looked like Daniel LaRusso. They were carrying him off the mat.
I know, it was a wrap.
And then he's windmilling the next game. I'm like, we windmilling now? This is crazy.
So kudos to you on your recovery skills. That's all-time great, Jalen. And let us know what your secret is. I break down the game of basketball. There's a lot of skill sets, obviously, so don't don't kill me for what I'm about to say. But at its core, basketball is about shooting and rebounding. Now, yes, defense is also a pillar of the game, but the way I break it down, shooting and rebounding. And the interesting thing to me is, Jace, you gave your recipe for how they have to get better. They've got to shoot and they've got to rebound. And that's exactly what my argument was going to be. I think it starts on the rebounds. That's effort. That travels. Shooting doesn't always travel. You're shooting in a hostile environment. You've got towels waving everywhere. It's not your home arena. You're not expected to shoot as well on the road as you do at home. So that doesn't always travel. But effort travels. Rebounding travels. Mm-hmm. And we just didn't see it. And what was crazy to me was it was obvious from jump. You said that this game, Orlando got off to a great start. Not really. The first couple minutes, they looked like the same Orlando team that left Cleveland. After the Cavs took a 21-18 lead, from that point on, Cleveland disappeared and Orlando did nothing wrong. So the adjustments that they made in that timeout, I think it was re-emphasizing what we came here to do. We've got to win on the offensive boards, because even when they were getting outscored by a little bit early, because they didn't have their first lead until it was like 14-13 or whatever, early on, they were still active on the boards. That's the one thing that we saw. I think they re-emphasized that. Cleveland's point of emphasis for Game 4 on tomorrow afternoon has to be get back to dominating on the boards. Mm-hmm. If they do that, I think the shooting part will fall into place. First of all, they're going to get more shots. They're going to limit the shots that Orlando makes. And also, this is driving me nuts, but Orlando's differential on free throws, what is it for the series?
Yeah, it's kind of wild.
I'll have to look that up, but they took significantly more in game.
They've been one of the teams that get to the line traditionally.
That's what they do,
yeah.
And I understand that. Like on the road, you shouldn't get to the line substantially more than the home team when you're playing on the road, and they were able to do that in Game 1. It was really lopsided, but I feel like I don't want to take away their aggressiveness, but you can't click on the bait. You can't take the bait on all these fouls that Orlando is drawing, because eventually the number of times Orlando goes to a free throw line is going to cost them one game in this series. And that could be the difference between moving on to the second round or going home like you did last year.
I think Stan Van Gundy talks about it, defensive discipline. Not fouling guys in particular places. A lot of times you see people fouling guys when they aren't. You're fouling non-shooters. You're fouling guys away from the basket that are big men. You're not being smart, trying to take charges in different areas where, hey, just contest. If they make the shot, okay, but put a hand up and live to fight another day. But don't put them on the line, especially when you got a guy like Paolo Banchero who 31 points. When he's struggling from three, he's going to try to get to the basket and have a medium range game going. You don't want to see guys get comfortable at the free throw line.
Also, when you're offensive challenged, and I think that we can all agree Orlando is definitely offensively challenged, you want to score points when the clock isn't moving.
Yeah.
And they're really good at doing that, and I think Cleveland has to be careful moving forward on the number of fouls they're committing and when they're committing them. All right. On to baseball.
Who wins, though, Game 4?
Oh, Game 4, yeah. Quick picks. Who's got it?
Cavs.
Cavs in a close one. I think it will be very close. Mike, who are you taking?
I'm taking the Cavs to bounce back. Okay. We're going to learn a lot in Game 4 about the mental makeup of this
We just lost by
team.
38 points, and us four homers all said, we'll win.
we knew Orlando was going to get one.
Hopefully that's the only one. All right, now on to the Guardians. Won again yesterday. They beat the Boston Red Sox in a nail-biter. The bullpen was great, but particularly we're talking about Emmanuel Clase, who, guys, I'm going to just start the discussion by saying I don't think there's an argument to be made that there's another starter or there's another closer in baseball that's as good as Emmanuel has been this year. Can anybody do that?
No.
I think it's a slam dunk.
His stuff is electric. I mean, his fastball is trending 98, 99, 100 miles an hour. He's throwing it seems like all his pitches move. Like, I'm not even going to say he has a breakthrough. All his stuff moves. Look at that. Like, this is, I mean, when you can throw that and then come back with a fastball in the outside part of the plate, you're in trouble. And he's coming in throwing BBs. He's not walking nobody. No. And that was one of the things that got him in trouble before, walking people, not being able to hit the zone. But when you can come in and have stuff like that, if the Guardians got a league, it's pretty much lights out. We call him Nightquil.
Yeah, he is. He's been Nightquil.
Lights out, buddy.
That's a good nickname.
Yeah, I think last year there was an adjustment for him as you talk about the pitch clock. I think it was an adjustment for him because he's one of those guys that took a lot of time in between pitches. And I've heard a couple of times that it was hard for him to get back on the mound, regather, and go again. And clearly he's made that adjustment. You heard his name in trade rumors over the winter. I think they explored it. They didn't get the type of value they were looking for because he's locked up long term for
thankfully.
For I don't even know how many years. He's on a very team friendly deal. So it was going to take a ransom to get him, and no one was able to meet the Guardians' price, so they brought him back. And nobody in the game throws a 100-mile-an-hour cutter.
No one.
That's Mariano Rivera type territory. And I actually watched him when he was in Texas before they made the trade for him. And I said that because I'm a huge fantasy baseball nerd, and I actually was following him when he was in Texas. And I said, I'm telling you guys, he throws a 100-mile-an-hour cutter. Name me one other pitcher that does. Mariano Rivera. That's it.
Yeah.
And we can't put him in the greatest closer of all time category yet. But I'm just telling you, those are the only two guys that I know of that can have a cutter move that much. And it's funny, Stephen Vogt told a great story at spring training. The first time at the end of his career, he saw Clase, and he didn't know anything about him. And the scouting report that he took back to the dugout was, moves a little bit. And then he went and they saw the breakdown. It was like 6 inches. He's like, yeah, I told you, it moves a little bit.
It's one thing to put the barrel of your bat on a 91 slider. That's hard enough. I mean, it really is. Because the movement, and you're tracking the speed and the movement. But I'm going so far to say when he puts the cutter at 100 where he wants, it's not hittable.
Can't hit it.
He's throwing it to lefties underneath their hands. I'm sorry, you can swing at that 100 times. You're going to have a brand new bat when you're done with that exercise. It is one of the most impressive things that I've ever seen. Trevor Hoffman did it with a changeup. He was different. He was just different all the way around. You're right about Mariano Rivera. His cutter, he could stand on the mound and yell, cutter.
Nothing.
And everybody knew what was coming.
Yep.
And guys would swing 3 times and they would go back to the dugout, the walk of shame.
Yep.
This guy is in that air.
Yeah.
And I'm with you. I am no way, shape, or form comparing him to the GOAT because Mariano did it for nearly 2 decades.
Correct.
I will say this. Mariano was an ecto, right? Long and lean. Mm-hmm. Isn't that an ectomorph? Or is that endo? Whatever he was.
Or Zeno.
Or Philo. I don't know. He was long and lean. When I watch Clase pitch, I feel like I'm watching an F-350 going over railroad track ties and thinking that's not going to wear him down.
Yeah.
3 hitters a game with his build, he can do it for 2 decades. And if he ends up doing it for 2 decades, we're talking about him being the all-time great closer. But there's a lot of work to be done. All right, we're taking a timeout. When we come back, the Browns are on the clock. Well, there's also 20 teams ahead of them on the clock. Where will they go with pick 54? The answer. Welcome back to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. In most years, being a Browns fan, your Super Bowl was the draft. But when you trade 3 first-round draft picks in a row for 1 player, the draft kind of becomes like an exhibition game. It's like I'm having a hard time getting into it. But the Browns will pick today, barring a trade that moves them down. They have the 54th pick. So there's 21 picks before them. Gee, who are they taking?
Well, listen, this was kind of hard because there are a lot of receivers that I want on the board. Now, I wouldn't mind a running back. Hey, who knows? Maybe there's an edge rusher that falls. But for me, I'm going wide receiver. I like Jerry Jeudy. I like Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, Benson. I'm going to go with Troy Franklin from Oregon. He was probably one of the first guys I kind of mocked to that position. Good straight line speed. He's a little stiff in the hips, but you talk about like a guy who could take top off the defense. He's a guy, he needs to work on, having contested catches. But you go back and watch him at Oregon, dude's a flyer. He can straight out fly. That's what the Browns need at the wide receiver position. And he could get in the end zone, 14 touchdowns. I think Troy Franklin will complete this offense, and we will look to get that Deshaun Watson 5,000 yards I've been trying to preach about for 4 years.
He seems like Anthony Schwartz with real stats.
Yeah,
with the speed, because when we took Schwartz, everybody's like, world-class speed. You looked at his numbers and you're like, yeah, but for a guy with world-class speed, he should have killed college football.
Yes.
And didn't. Franklin did.
And he's 6'3". And he's above. Anthony Schwartz was kind of small, but I'll tell you what, Jason.
I'd
I'll
be
take
happy with
receiver.
him. If he's still available, I'd be happy with him.
Yes.
I don't think they necessarily have to go receiver with this pick. They've certainly addressed it already with the Judy. To me, the position that we have the most uncertainty surrounding is really running back. You don't know what you're going to get out of Nick Chubb. You hope he's back. You hope that he's the same Nick of old, but you don't know that. This is a pretty significant knee injury that he's coming off of. And how much longer does he have in the tank? The Browns could have their pick of running backs at where they're picking. They're very likely that no backs go off the board. So to me, give me Trey Benson from Florida State. I also like Jonathan Brooks from Texas. Either one of those guys, they're sort of 1 and 2 on the board. Benson, you see his numbers there. He's apt at catching passes out of the backfield, which I think is going to be a big part of this offense moving forward with the spread look that they're probably going to develop. He doesn't need a ton of carries. He's always been in that 20 and under carry threshold that the Browns have seemed to trend toward. Give me the running back and quite likely the long-term successor to Nick Chubb.
I like him. He's the best running back on the board. If he's there, I would have no problems at 54 taking him.
All right, here's why before I give my player, completely respect your opinion, but before I fold my hand on Nick Chubb, I need to see diminished production. And I know it might be too late if we get into the season and there's diminished production when he comes back. I am betting on Nick Chubb. I just am.
It's not a bad bet to make.
No, he's had a devastating knee injury before when he was at Georgia, a knee injury that some said he would never be the same. He was better than ever.
Yeah.
So this is Nick Chubb we're talking about. There's very few players that I would make this exception for, but he's one of them. I'm going to let it ride at running back. I'm going wide receiver. Now, my answer to Mike on this question was literally the following. Anyone who can run and catch. That's what I want at number 54. In the past, we've had guys who could catch, David Bell, but couldn't run. We've had guys who could run in Anthony Schwartz, but couldn't catch. I need a guy that can do both. So please, at number 54, give me a guy that can do both. And here's the guy I think will be available. I like your guy more than this pick. I'm not sure he's going to be on the board. Give me, and the name McConkey, I like that name. I know that name. I also like Brendan Rice, by the way. I would have given you Brendan Rice as the guy that I really like. But just take a receiver that can run and catch. That's really what I'm looking for. And, these stats here are Minimowski.
But he was
I know.
injured.
But the fact that he was injured has to factor into that. And so, give me a guy whose dad literally has the acronym of GOAT locked down. Anybody disagree with that? Just like Mariano Rivera has GOAT locked down at that position, I think his dad, Jerry Rice, has GOAT on lockdown.
That McConkey can run. He did it in the SEC. Go watch them games against Florida. Go watch them games that against Alabama. He gets open. He's a precise route runner, and he's going to be a dude that's like, I don't want to just say it because he's just like a slot receiver. Everybody is Julian Edelman who happens to be white and a slot receiver.
Automatically, you get that.
Automatically.
Yeah.
That's
undersized, white.
But guess what?
Good hands.
But he can move. He is not Julian Edelman speed. He can move. He runs in the 4.3s. I would not mind having him as well. Give me him.
Okay, Christian McCaffrey broke the mold at white running back.
Yep.
Is he going to break the mold at wide receiver?
He very may well. He very may well.
I'll make mine quick. You took Troy Franklin, G. I like that pick. I like Lad McConkey. But if Keon Coleman's on the board, that has to be the pick for me.
Yeah.
Guy put up phenomenal numbers at Florida State. Former basketball player at Michigan State. He has that athleticism you would hope Cedric Tillman would bring to the table last year. Coleman didn't test well, which is why he's fallen on the draft boards. But when you watch the tape, this dude can play. And we asked Earl with Edrin Cooper, by the way, the linebacker out of Texas A&M.
I like that.
I like that pick too.
I'm just skeptical that he's going to be there. I was surprised that I thought he might go late in the first round.
Yeah.
But sometimes when teams have not 24 hours, but a night to sleep on it and think about it, that usually that first pick ends up being the best available, and I think Coleman's going to be gone early. We're taking a break. When we come back, yes, I'm about to say this. Does Cleveland have the best 3 sports teams in all of America right now? That debate's next.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. I'm fascinated by this question. Mikey, the question is, right now, does Cleveland currently have the 3 best teams collectively for any city in the United States? And you put together a little list. Let's go through it before we give our picks.
Yeah, I put together the 6 cities I thought counted. We discounted L.A. and New York because they have so many teams to choose from. I didn't think it was fair to mix and match.
Sure.
Mike just told me that 10 seconds ago.
Yeah, Jay had New York 1 and LA 2.
Fair. I should have told you that last night. My bad. However, current is up to the eye of the beholder.
Yeah.
It's current the last year. It's current right now. These are the 6 cities I think are in the conversation to be number 1. Let's find out where Cleveland falls. Atlanta, Boston, Cleveland, Dallas, Philadelphia, and San Francisco. Those are the 6 I thought you could make a case for. What say you?
I'm going Dallas. And my explanation for why Cleveland isn't in there, the Guardians last year were 10 games under 500 and missed the playoffs. Now, granted, this year, their best record in baseball, but that's a small sample size. The Cavs lost in the first round of the NBA playoffs last year to a team that they were favored to beat. And the Browns snuck into the playoffs with the 5th-string quarterback and got boat raced by a team with a rookie quarterback. So I do think that all 3 teams are in the mix, which is good. But when I look at Dallas, you've got the Rangers, who are the reigning World Series champions. The Cowboys, we're waiting for them to return to the Cowboys, but they're always near the top of the heap in the regular season. And they've got the Mavs. So I think Dallas is my pick.
Listen, I gotta go. Listen, I'm a homer. What you talking about, bro?
I knew you were gonna go Cleveland.
First and foremost, we've been terrible for years for the Browns, and we show up every single week. You could go. We the only backers that got people in Ireland.
Well, no, you're talking fans though. There.
Well, listen, that's sports cities, right?
Yeah, but I'm talking competitive teams.
This is the teams, G.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
the
Well,
teams.
listen, I can always.
Fan base,
listen,
I'll make a case for Cleveland.
But competitive teams, the exercise was right now.
Yeah.
Right now, Guardians first place. Right now, Cavs up 2-1, top 4 team in the Eastern Conference. And the Cleveland Browns, last time I checked, they went to the playoffs with a backup quarterback, and we lost our best player. So right now, we're looking great, and we about to draft somebody great today.
All right.
Today, the Browns, I would say Cleveland is a top 3 city.
I will say that this is the first time I can remember that all 3 teams are at this level at the same time, and
I will echo that.
and that's fun.
Yeah.
It's a fun place to be.
Because in 16, when the when the Cavs and the Indians were 1 and 2 in their sports respectively,
The Browns were throwing a parade for
the
winning
Browns were 0-16.
Right.
Yeah. So it's very rare to have all 3 this good at once. I don't know what I can call them the best. I hate to do this because Director Steve is already, or Executive Producer Steve is already chiming in with Philly, but Philly does rank fairly highly with the Eagles,
They do.
the Phillies, the Sixers. Screw it, give me Cleveland.
That's what I'm talking
So
about.
I'm the holdout. I'm the holdout. McNuggets, would you put Cleveland at number 1?
I actually put Dallas at number 1.
Yeah.
Only because the Rangers are still in first place. They're the reigning World Series champs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cowboys and the Browns both made the playoffs last year. Both lost in the first
So they're
round
a
of the
wash.
playoffs. The Mavs and the Cavs are both 4 seeds.
Yep.
Both in a competitive first-round series. So to me, the tiebreaker was both first-place teams. Guardians have a slightly better record, but the Rangers have a World Series title.
Yeah.
Right now, I had to give the edge to Dallas.
Okay,
But Cleveland's in the
okay.
top 3 for
And
sure.
that's what I would have Cleveland at number 2.
At 3,
I would.
I would have to put San Francisco at 3.
And San Francisco was in my top 3 as well. The Warriors, the Giants, who are not as good, and the Warriors. I said the 49ers, Warriors, Giants. That's
Listen.
a trio.
Do you guys hear that? That's executive producer Steve yelling in his home in Atlanta. How
He
could
has
you guys
texted
leave
us 4 times in
Philadelphia
the
out?
last 3 minutes.
Of course he has.
Yeah.
I didn't even look. But I know what he's saying. How could it not be Philly? Well, I do need a championship. I do.
Yeah.
And
And the way they collapsed
the
last
Texas
year,
Rangers, the way they won it, I think I mentioned this Wednesday on the show, but on their World Series ring, it actually, the top comes off, and underneath it says ROAD in diamonds. And it says road because they beat the Rays, R, the Orioles, O, the Astros, A, and the Diamondbacks, D, ROAD. And they were 11-0 on the road.
That's really cool.
In the playoffs.
I mean, they didn't. That's weird. They didn't beat nobody really. They didn't have a bunch of juggernauts on that. The Rays,
No, but
Orioles.
they were 11-0 on the road.
I guess,
You do
yeah.
that in the baseball playoffs, you're going to win something. All right, that's it. Thanks for spending time with us. We appreciate it. You can watch the YouTube show every Monday through Friday. We're live from 11 to 1, or you can watch it whenever you like. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday.
Peace.